Hello, welcome to jasonnewland.com with Andre, the most beautiful little ferret and the most wonderful sun in the whole world. He's giving me kisses, This is Let Me Bore You to Sleep, number 64, I think. So the idea behind this, apart from letting you enjoy my squeaky chair, which I will hopefully, what I'll do is I will edit the video before I upload it, so that the beginning and the end of the squeakiness is gone, if that makes sense. I can't believe he's just lying there sleeping. I love it when he does that. He doesn't do it very often, but it's nice for me. I think it's nice for people watching as well, because he's got a bit of a little fan base, and he's so beautiful. And some of you that have been watching my videos, for the last however many years, you've seen him grow up. You've seen him go from a little baby to a little boy to like an adolescent, and now he's fully grown. There was a time when he was absolutely tiny, could fit in my hand, and I could get my fingers around his neck like that, and without obviously hurting him, but just that's how little he was. So the reason I'm doing this particular session is because it's a request from a lady from Germany called Sebastian, and she asked me if I would do a Let Me Bore You to Sleep, but talking about previous Christmases that I have experienced. So I thought, why not do that? So before we continue, please only listen to this or watch this video when you can safely close your eyes, because hopefully, all being well, you will find it incredibly boring. That's the main objective of this, is for you to be bored. So where do I start? Christmas. My first memory of Christmas really was probably when I was about 7, 8, not 8, 9, maybe 10, maybe 11, that's probably about the age. Can't really remember much Christmases before that. There was a period of time where I lived with my 3 brothers and parents, a dad and a stepmom, and Christmases were pretty much the same. They were lovely, but they were in a sense, they'd mixed together. They'd sort of mingled together into one, because they're very, just the decorations and Christmassy stuff, and mixed together. I hope that makes sense. Not in a bad way, just in a memory way. But I think one of the things that I remember some of the presents that I got for Christmas was, I got a telescope one year, and it was a Tasco, I think it was Tasco telescope, and it was white but the ends were black, so it had a cap on the end which you needed to take off in order to see anything. I discovered after about 2 weeks of trying to use it, it's not working, Dad, it's not working, I can't see anything. I'm looking at the sky and it's just black, and it'd say, that's because it's night time, son. I said, no, but I want to look at the moon. And he said, well, look out the window, the moon's there. I said, yeah, but I want to look at the moon through the telescope. And he said, well, look through the telescope then. I said, but I can't see the moon. He said, well, if you direct it out of the window, look out of the window, you might be able to see it. I said, yeah, but even when I do that, it doesn't, nothing. And eventually we discovered that the cap was on, you know, the black caps that was protecting, I guess, the other end of the telescope. And I had a bunch of lenses, different lenses. One was you look straight through it, and you looked through all of them, but one was where you looked down, and because with telescopes it's kind of like a mirror. It's not quite, it is a mirror inside. So I think things, if I remember rightly, things were upside down, I think. But it's been a while. It's a long time ago. And so I had this telescope. I discovered a few things. I also had a sun filter, so I could look at the sun through this filter thing, which was quite cool. Again, you need to take the cap off the end for that to work as well. You know, what I noticed is I used to focus the telescope on the moon, and just in the time it took me to get out of my clothes and into my pajamas, the moon had moved, or the telescope had moved, one of them, or both at the same time. But I put it down to the moon because, you know, I was studying astronomy, well, astrology to start with, then I got corrected and said, well, that's a different thing. I said, but it's got stars. Yeah, it has, Jason. They patted me on the head and sent me to bed. But eventually I started reading astronomy books, and it was one of those situations, and I've done this a few times in my life, where I was reading books and I had no idea what I was reading. Apart from books that were bought for me for Christmas. I used to rent, get books out of the library, and I'd read them, and they had lovely pictures and they smelt nice, and I'd be sitting there and for hours reading them, and I didn't know what I was reading. I didn't understand really hardly any of it, but there was something about wanting to learn things that were, I never found it very interesting to learn something that was easy. It was more a challenge to try and learn something that was fairly complicated and fairly perhaps specialized. So I did learn a bit along the way, but I still couldn't tell you now, much about it, because I stopped reading those books a long time ago. what was strange is I actually lost a little bit of interest in astronomy, but because my dad had bought me that telescope, and it was a really good telescope, and every birthday and Christmas for a few years I'd get stuff about astronomy, and I didn't have the heart to say that I wasn't really interested in it. Anymore, but I was for a while. I preferred watching Doctor Who. I do remember that once. I remember being called downstairs saying, Jason, Jason. I think I'd have heard if they'd have like shouted a bit louder, but Jason, and I said, yes, it is I. What do you wish to contact me for? I said, Doctor Who's starting. And I thought, oh, so I used to go downstairs and watch Doctor Who, and I'd forget all about space and stuff like that while I was watching a program that was based on space travel. Oh, I've got an itchy neck. So that was one of the presents I got. So it was a really, really cool present. What other presents did I get for Christmas when I was a child? Just trying to think. I remember I got a present from my stepmom, and there was a card on the front of it saying, thank you for looking after your little brother, you know, for the last 6 months, because she'd started working part-time, which meant I was coming home from school and looking after him until she got home from work. So I was looking after him for a couple of hours every night, and all the way through holidays as well, all day during the holidays. So I opened it up, and it was a calculator. You heard right, a calculator. I can't imagine any situation where a calculator would be a present. That's right, you heard right, a calculator. That was the thanking gift for... No, you did hear right, it was a calculator. So yeah, that was... yeah, I should move on from that really, shouldn't I? I should let it go, but... yeah, I should stop moving around in this chair because it's squeaky, and I know it can be a little bit alarming. Not alarming, but you know, there must be a way of de-squeaking this thing. Is that DH42, or is there some kind of spray that you can get that can de-squeak things? So I might look, possibly, my dad told me this years ago, polish, you know, like table polish, spray polish that you can use for dusting and stuff. If you spray that on hinges of doors, or door hinges, the hinges that are connected, the doors to the door frame, it de-squeaks them. And it also doesn't leave a mess like oil does, doesn't leave well, oil stains and stuff like that. So maybe if I put the chair upside down and sprayed, because I've got some I've got some spray somewhere. I think it's in the cupboard in the bathroom. So I could maybe do that and spray that on here, because I made a video last week or the week before, and somebody sort of said that they listened to it, and then right at the end, I guess I must have sat up to turn the video off or the audio off, and it was a big loud squeak. So I edited it. I edited the audio to take that out, but I hadn't done it beforehand. And I suppose I forget, because I'm not asleep when I'm doing these, because it'd be quite difficult to do it and be asleep. I think that maybe I sometimes forget why or what I'm doing it for, or who I'm doing it for, or you know, I just get maybe caught up in the moment and just, you know, just talk about stuff, you know. But because this particular Let Me Bore You to Sleep was requested from Mrs. Sebastian in Germany. She's an elderly lady, probably about in her early 90s, and she was apparently she's the first. I think she was an Olympic gymnast when she was younger, but lost a gold medal when I found out that she was a man. I think something like that happened. Anyway, what other Christmases I've had? I remember we used to have a lot of Christmas decorations. I mean, really, you know, my dad he's always loved Christmas, and even now, you know, he's always gone all out with Christmas decorations and Christmas dinners and stuff like that. He's very Christmassy, and my first stepmom was as well, and so is my second stepmom. But I haven't really carried on that tradition myself, because I've always lived on my own pretty much since the age of 16. There's been times when I stayed with my dad a couple of times in my earlier years for short periods of time, but I've lived on my own in shared houses in a room, you know, and I never really bothered with the whole decorating part of things. Although I think I did once decorate my room once, but I can't remember when it was. It might be when I had a flat, because I had a flat when I was working at a chip shop when I first left school. So I left school in 1986, and I left school in April, because that was the legal time that I could stop, but I had to go back to school in, I think, May, June time to take my exams. And I got myself a job. So I was 15, so I didn't turn 16 until the end of August. So I was 15 years old, and I got myself a job working in a chip shop. And after living there, I think it was, I ended up living, I lived with my dad and his second wife, and then I ended up living with his second wife, or my stepmom, and her mother and my little brother in my step-grandmother's flat. But I was sleeping in the living room on a makeshift bed thing, like one of those fold-up beds, metal things. So it wasn't, I suppose technically I was homeless, but probably at the time I didn't really see it like that because I was with family, but I didn't have my own room. And my little brother was sleeping in bed with my stepmom. He was only little, so he didn't even have his own room. So it wasn't ideal, but in the end they moved away. So I think it was April time, it was around Easter 1987, I moved into a flat above the shop, above the chip shop. And so that was my first home of mine. But it wasn't really mine in a sense, if you know what I mean. It was the front door wasn't just mine, so it was used by the staff. They could go upstairs. There was a storage room up there because my boss and his wife and children used to live upstairs, and then they bought a house, and then they agreed for me to move up there because I didn't have anywhere to live, so I moved up there. But they had a storage room, so I had to always have access to get in and out. And so I had a living room, I had a bedroom, a kitchen and a bathroom. But then I had to also share the bathroom with customers if anybody wanted to use a toilet, because that's when the rules came in, where if you served food like a restaurant, which they did have, you have to provide a bathroom, a toilet for people, so it kind of didn't really feel like my own home, because there was always strangers coming in, and but I think that I did some decoration the first year I was there, put some decorations up, but I might not have done. I can't remember. I have very vague memories of my time there. I remember going in, because you'd go out of the back door of the chip shop, and the front door my front door is directly to the left, and then there's stairs, and there'd usually perhaps be some things connected. I think there was like a coat hanger where staff would put their coats and things like that. Maybe I kind of vaguely remember, but there's be stairs, and go up the stairs and turn right would be, go straight ahead, that would be the bathroom with a bath, and turn right would be the kitchen, and then turn left, and there was like a banister, like a stairs banister that went round. So the bedroom was on, if you turn left, the bedroom was just on the right, and the living room was just straight ahead. But then on the left hand side, that was where the storage room was. So I think they had an office up there, so I didn't go in there because it was locked. I had no reason to go in there. So I had the living room, and didn't really have much in the way of furniture, and I had a bed. I had a wardrobe, a set of drawers, just basically stuff from my childhood bedroom, which had been put in storage. So I just had that in my flat. And I think my friends, one of my friends, Neil, his parents gave me quite a few bits, like kitchen things, like cutlery, maybe saucepans, and my nan gave me a few bits as well for the kitchen. I think she gave me an ironing board, and I said to her, but what am I supposed to do with that? She said, well, you iron things. Iron what? My shirts. I said, I work in a chip shop. She said, you still got to wear clothes. I said, yeah, but it's just at that time everything smelled of fish. It was quite hard to get away from the smell of fish or chips or both. But for a while, I know this isn't really Christmas related, but I had a friend who worked there. He was there part-time, but he was one of these really fashionable people, you know, super fashionable. He was still at school, I think, but like near the end of his school year, near the end of his period at school. So he took me to a different town, and took me shopping, because I didn't have the first idea about fashion or where to buy decent clothes, and he took me shopping. It was a really nice thing actually that he did, and he introduced me to a couple of the shops that he went to, and they were really, really nice. So I bought some really nice shoes and just a few bits of nice clothing, so that I could go out or have some clothes when I went out. So that was quite good. But that was when I was earning some money. But then in September I went on to this youth training scheme. You can Google it if you want. It's the YTS, they called it, and it was tiny bit of money. It was like kind of like an apprenticeship. So if I'd have been doing a trade, like maybe learning to be a bricklayer or a builder or a welder or electrician, something like that, then it would have been worth the sacrifice of earning a small amount of money, because at the end of the training I would have been earning good money. But that, working in a chip shop, unless I was going to own the chip shop, there was never really going to be any money in it for me. Which is okay, I didn't really bother at the time, it didn't worry me. So Christmas, once I left home, once I didn't have a home and I was living on my own, I didn't really celebrate Christmas. Really, again, I've not really ever celebrated it, not really. I have been with people at Christmas, so I spent Christmas with my dad and his, my stepmom quite a few times over the years. But I've also spent a lot of times where I've been just, on my own at Christmas, which I'm used to, which doesn't bother me at all, because I like I might have mentioned this before, but I like Christmas morning and going out and seeing nobody, especially when I lived in London, and it was always busy, but Christmas, not a sound. It was lovely. It was just just standing there in the road. And again, I don't advise standing in the road to anyone, but there was nothing, no traffic. Everyone was at home, I guess, eating their Christmas pud or whatever people do. And I do remember once, I was about 13, maybe 12, and I wanted a bike for Christmas because I did a paper round. I did probably a couple of paper rounds, or paper route, you might call it where you are. And it was a long journey walking, because the paper round that I did was I did a morning one and an evening one. And I also did, I did a couple of leaflet rounds as well, where I did them either every 2 weeks or once a month. So that was but they was like 30, 40, 50,000, so it was a lot of them. But with the daily ones, early morning and evening, was Monday to Saturday. Didn't do Sunday rounds because those newspapers were full of magazines. I did my brother's Sunday round once, and my shoulder took ages to recover. It was just way too heavy. So having a bike was something that I really needed. And I was in the bike shop looking at the bikes. Well, I guess that last bit wasn't really necessary for that sentence, but I could have been looking at the bicycle pumps or looking at oil in case I ever get a squeaky chair in the future. So I was looking at these bikes, and I thought, what I'd like really is a racer, because then I could get things done a lot quicker. And I used to dream about it. I used to be in bed, laying down, and I'd dream about having a racer and having a bike that I could do my paper round and not be walking around in the rain for 2 hours. And it's like, wouldn't have to get up so early in the morning. It was nice. And I dream about it. So I thought I'd just start looking at some of the bikes. And I saw a bike with a label on it, and it had my name on it. Can you believe? It actually had my name and my address, with probably sold next to it. And it wasn't outside the shop, it was inside the shop. And I think my brothers also had bikes as well, I'm guessing. And even though I saw my name and my address, I still didn't believe that I was going to get a bike. That's a bit strange, isn't it? You'd think that would be a bit of evidence there, a bit of evidence. So even though I'd seen it and I kind of knew, I looked forward to Christmas that morning, that Christmas, probably more than any other Christmas ever, before or since, because on one level I knew what I was getting, but on another level I was hoping I was going to get what I knew I was getting, because I was unsure. I didn't believe it till I saw it. There's probably a psychological explanation for that. But of course I came down, and just to give an example of how great my dad and my stepmom were when it came to Christmas, they'd actually wrapped the presents. the bikes. They'd wrapped the bikes in Christmas wrapping paper. Admittedly, they were shaped like bikes, so it was a bit of a giveaway. But it was the, my favourite present I ever got was that bike, because it was something I really, really wanted. And it wasn't, I'm not saying that I've never wanted stuff just for the sake of it, but I like something that's useful. And because it was going to help me to get around, it was going to help me to get to school quicker, and help me to get my job done, the paper round. And my friend had a bike as well, so we could both ride around on our bikes. And my best friend was called Dean, and we used to spend a lot of time together outside of school, the weekends, evenings, during the summer, and we'd walk to school together and stuff like that. And it's pretty much the best friend I ever had in my life, actually. It's strange, I haven't had contact with him we kind of stopped having contact when I left school. We just kind of went our separate ways. He was much more in tune with what he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to be a chef, and he became a chef. He trained and he did it. I didn't have the first idea what I wanted to do. The only thing I knew what I didn't want to do is work in a chip shop. But I did that for 2 years. So Christmases since, I remember once I went to my nan's for Christmas, and I was living in London at the time, so this must have been maybe 92, something like that. Or 91 even, it might be 91. I'm not sure if I stayed at my nan's or stayed at my dad's, but we had the Christmas, and either it was Christmas Day or Boxing Day, but I was there, my dad was there, I think even my aunt was there. There was quite a few of us all in one room, in the living room, watching television, and the film on television was Shirley Valentine. And this is totally true, what happened. So my nan's there as well, and we probably got chocolates, a big tin of chocolates, Quality Street or something like that. Everyone's sort of in a good mood and feeling good, and my nan's happy to be around her kids, and so we're watching Shirley Valentine, and there's a part of the film where Shirley Valentine, I don't know the term, I don't know what the exact sentence was, but she says something about saying about her boyfriend, he doesn't even know where my clitoris is. And my nan said really loudly, "What's a clitoris?" And I had to leave the room. In fact, I think I went outside. I was laughing so much. It's because it was just so, I've never, to have my nan come out with something like that. And there was that like confusion, thinking, well, my nan must have known something you know, along about that stuff. She had 5 children. She must have had some kind of knowledge, but it's just, it was one of the funniest things in my memory of her. It's very funny. But again, she used to like to decorate her house, and her house always felt like my house because I had lived there for a year before she moved in, and I'd been visiting regularly all my life until she moved out, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago. And then she went into sheltered accommodation for the remainder of her time. So that house has always, it felt like my home as well. And even the smell of the house, I could still kind of sense that that comfort, that safety. And it's kind of strange, because when I slept over, I would sleep in the little room. It just had a single bed, but it was a room at the front of the house, and her bedroom was also at the front of the house, but it's right next to the little room. And I used to sleep in that little room when I first moved into that house. So maybe that's part of the reason, but there's something about, I get the best night's sleep. It's probably the safest I felt, is just being in the same, being close to my nan, being in the same house. I just felt, I guess it's an emotional safety. You know, that feeling where you can just, you feel protected, you know, even though it doesn't have to be anything from outside. It all comes from within, isn't it? It's all a feeling that we produce ourselves. I don't know if you can hear that wind. It's very windy outside today. Hasn't been very windy inside. But if I can drink enough Coke, I can sort that out. I haven't eaten any chocolate for 3 weeks. That's not really relevant to Christmas, but this time of year I normally eat a bit more chocolate. With Christmas I kind of, yes, especially with the big tins of chocolates and stuff. Because I've got nobody to tell me to, you know, to keep track of what I eat, I can end up eating a lot of them all in one go. But when I visit my dad, he'll be there and there'll be the tin of chocolates, and my stepmom will look at him and he stops taking them. She'll put the lid on and not hide the tin. That's quite funny to watch. Funny on one way, but then I can't get to them because I don't know where they are. So what other Christmases? I remember I worked in this cold store, like factory thing. Basically they processed frozen products. And it's a big old place, and I worked there in 1989. And that was the first Christmas I worked there. And I started in probably September, and then I finished probably April, and then I worked somewhere else. But I gave everybody Christmas cards that I was working with. And they looked at me as if I'd literally just brought in a donkey with a child sitting on top. Like some, I didn't have a donkey with me. I'm just saying it. They looked at me like really quizzically. Why have I given them Christmas cards? And I don't know why I did that. Maybe when I worked in a chip shop, maybe we did give each other Christmas cards. I don't recall. Because I would have been there Christmas 86, Christmas 87, and then I was left in April 88 or March 88. So maybe we gave each other Christmas cards. So maybe that's where I got the idea from, because being my first job, like full-time job, but yeah, I remember that. What other things, other Christmases? See, Sebastian, she asked me to talk about previous Christmases, but there isn't really much to say. There's not really much, and it's not supposed to be interesting, is it? But Christmas, just, what other Christmases have I had? When I first moved to London, I used to come back to my dad's at Christmas and stay there. When I was for the first probably 3 or 4, 5 years possibly, up to about 95. And then after that, I think I pretty much stayed at home, stayed in London. And yeah, even when I was living with my cousin, and I stayed there for 4 years, and I'd give them Christmas presents and stuff like that, but they'd be having their Christmas, and I really wouldn't bother with eating with them. I'd just stay upstairs and watch telly. Or sometimes what I'd do is, because my friend, he used to go to Ireland to be with his family, so I'd look after his dog and stay at his flat over Christmas. So that was quite nice to have a bit of a break. What other Christmases? Oh, when I was at university, I stayed in this family house. It was a bungalow, but was it a bungalow? No, it was a cottage. It wasn't a bungalow. It had stairs, so it was a cottage, and lovely, beautiful cottage, and lovely garden and everything. So I was staying in there. I was living there for 4 years, I think, or 3 years. So I don't know. And when was that? I started living there in November 2007. And I moved out at the beginning of 2011. So 2007, November, to November 2008, November 2009, that's 2 years, November 2010, that's 3 years. So it's, 3 years and maybe 3 months that I was living there. And they had big sort of Christmas dinner with the family and stuff, and I think we had quite a lot of snow, so I couldn't really travel to see my dad or anything, so I just stayed there, and they invited me to have lunch, Christmas dinner with them, and I just didn't want to. So I just didn't, I don't know, I just didn't feel comfortable, and but I think she saved me some dinner and gave me, and I heated it up. It was lovely. I should have just sat and had some dinner, but maybe I was worried that they'd want me to help with the washing up. I'm not sure, but it's something just I don't know. Never really been great on the whole celebratory part. I don't know. Because I got into Buddhism quite deeply in 2002. So didn't really celebrate Christmas, as a religion. And I still I acknowledge it and give presents and stuff when I can. But it's not, I like the build-up. I do like the Christmas films. I love Christmas carols, and I love seeing people that look happy, that look, that's nice. I don't always want to be too close to them, but it's preferable, isn't it, to the opposite to that, I guess. But I learned something quite important. It was back in, I don't know what year it was, but my dad, my stepmum, my second stepmum, and her 2 children were still living with them. So it's got to be quite a long time ago. And I was sleeping in one of the beds. I might have been, I was sleeping in one of the rooms. And I got woken up Christmas morning by lots of laughter and giggling and all this stuff. And I opened my eyes. I was just glad to see there was no one else in the room. But and it's embarrassing, really. My first thought was one of how dare them wake me up, and then it dawned on me that actually getting woken up by people that are happy, having fun and laughter, that's got to be the nicest way to get woken up, or one of the nicest ways to be woken up. So it sort of changed my mind, changed my brain chemistry in quite a profound way. I was able to move from being a grumpy old man to accepting, perhaps getting in touch with reality, the reality that my stepmum and my little sister were actually having fun on Christmas morning, and it's a beautiful thing. So I was, and 2 of the most important females in my life were enjoying themselves. So that was, it was nice. I'm trying to think of any other Christmases that are memorable. I think because I'm 48 now and I keep mentioning it, so I'm a bit worried that I might be becoming old. That seems to be a thing with some of the older people keep mentioning, I'm 79, you know, but I'm doing it already and I'm only 48. If I go this way, I think by the time I'm 80, that'll be the only thing I ever say. That'll be my answer to everything. I'm 80. I'm 80. A bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, that tree. I'll be like that, but just saying, I'm 80. So what other Christmassy stories, delightful things can I talk about? I do have a really funny story, but I can't tell you it. No, I do want to tell you, but I can't. It's so yeah, it's a Christmas. Hopefully you're asleep anyway, so you're not listening, and you're calm and relaxed and enjoying feeling loose and comfortable. And it's nice to be relaxed, isn't it? It's nice to have that, I don't know, I think so. It's nice to have that sense of just letting go. And being able to enjoy feeling comfortable, you know. There's something quite nice about being indoors at the moment. Feeling calm, feeling relaxed. I suppose I quite like the first Christmas I had here in this flat, because it was the first time I had my own flat, my own space where no one else had access. First time I had my own bedroom and a living room and a kitchen and a bathroom and a storage room and a hallway, a front door that no one else could get into. No one else has got a key to, you know. It's the first time I've ever had this, so it's nice. It's really great. So the first Christmas here was in 2000 and I don't know what year it was. Was it 2014? I'll have been here 4 years in April next year. So that's 4 years in 2019. Which means I must have moved in here in 2015. So December 25th, 2015, I had Andre, and I'd had him since September. He was just big enough to be able to, for me to take him for walks. And I think that first year I actually made a video, Christmas Day, and I filmed him, and I bought him presents, and I'd wrap the presents up and everything, and he had a great time. But like a lot of the things, I deleted that video and it's gone forever. But I might do one this year, just maybe like a nice little live broadcast with Andre, Christmas morning or Christmas afternoon, and just to say hi, maybe. But I was also, that time I was drinking lager, so I was drinking quite regularly, like in the evenings and stuff. And over Christmas, I think I bought quite a few packs of lager, you know, that were in the storage room. So I had a lot of them to drink. But I haven't really drunk alcohol, not really like properly, for a couple of years now. I don't know, it's something about lager. I'm not really, never been a drinker of like hard liquor, you know, kind of. Like whiskey and vodka and things like that, but I don't even really like lager anymore. It doesn't do it for me. I prefer a nice can of Coke and some tea cakes or hot cross buns and a nice movie. Yes. I should try and hold my stomach in. I shouldn't have done it in this jumper. This is an old jumper. I'll wear this for comfort because it's old and worn out. But I like it because I had another one which is blue, really lovely coloured blue, and it got holes in it underneath. Well, it's got holes, and I gave it to Andre, and he sleeps in it. He's got it over there somewhere. He sleeps. You know, I was realising that when I film myself, it's all the wrong way round. What you see that this is my right arm, but when you see it on the screen, it looks like my left arm. But that's my right arm. My tattoo's on my right arm, not my left arm. So you're not actually seeing me how I actually look. Everything's kind of the other way around. So my face is the opposite to what it should look. The opposite. I mean, it's still going to look like me, but it's because no one's face is exactly the same both sides generally. I think unless there's some chromosome issues, I don't know. But we're different. We look different on both sides. Same-ish, you know, obviously the same, but slight differences. So in real life, I might actually look different to this. Maybe. In real life, I look a lot slimmer. So I'm going to go. So this is Christmas. When Mrs. Sebastian asked me to, you know, if I'd do a Christmas thing, talk about previous Christmases, I thought, you know, there'd be years worth of stuff, loads of stuff, but in reality there's not really. There wasn't really a lot to really say. I could have expanded on pretty much anything, but yeah, it's just what I used to enjoy, I still do, is Top of the Pops on Christmas Day. It's usually on about 1 o'clock, midday, 2 o'clock, something like that. And it'd be the hits from the previous year, you know, through 2018. And it's one of my favourite things, always was, all through childhood. Top of the Pops on Christmas Day. And it used to be exciting to to find out who was going to be the Christmas #1. I used to love that. I think what we should do, we should all get together and make sure that Cliff Richard gets to #1. Or Shakin' Stevens. I used to be a huge fan of Shaky back in the 80s, and he was the most successful UK artist throughout the whole of the 80s. Shakin' Stevens, check him out. You got Green Door, She Drives Me Crazy, It's Raining. There's so many songs. He's so many. So I'm going to go. You take care, and if I can find a way to turn this off without squeaking, I will. Otherwise, I'm just going to wait for a couple of seconds and then get up. Bye. No, it's too loud.